A real crime. In a series of podcasts, I want you to travel down some lonely roads with me. These are the roads I traveled with families who never got to say goodbye to loved ones. These family members were fated to live the rest of their lives waiting and wondering. I will begin this series with unsolved murders, but I will also revisit cases that include arrests because aspects of the case are worth re-examining. I wrote these stories when I worked as a reporter for the Charleston Gazette. Thanks for listening today. I am looking at how the proper use of evidence makes all the difference in criminal cases. Last week I started delving into the Jeremy Bell case. I covered this case for the Gazette and have written a book about it. I pointed out that all the evidence in this case sat for 52 months, including a vial of the child's blood. Episode 26, Power in the Blood. After a new sheriff and new investigators took a deep dive into the evidence collected at a cabin where the child died, they found every item they would need for a successful conviction. Jeremy Bell, who was 12, had many virtues, and he was also a well-respected athlete. Before he went on a fishing trip at his former principal's cabin with no telephone, everyone knew him to be a healthy child who played several sports. How could he die so unexpectedly? When paramedics were dispatched to the remote cabin along the New River, they were told from the 911 center that the child had a heart attack. The first adult on the scene, paramedic James Duffy, said Edgar Fredericks Jr. wanted to convince him and his partner that Fredericks was doing rescue breathing on the child. The paramedic was not convinced by the performance and thought sure police would be talking with him soon about what he observed. In the book I've written about this case, we now know Fredericks began his teaching career in Pennsylvania. After Pennsylvania parents discovered what Fredericks was doing to their sons, they went to the board to demand that he exit the classroom. Some of the Pennsylvania parents I talked with believed Fredericks would never be with children in any future classroom. But Fredericks was allowed to leave Pennsylvania, and with a letter of recommendation from his principal, Fredericks got a teaching job in West Virginia. Fredericks was both a teacher and a teaching principal in several schools in Fayette County, West Virginia. I've talked with many parents and students who realized too late what Fredericks was up to, but education officials in 2 states gave him unfettered access to children. After Fredericks attempted suicide, he was hospitalized. Even though Bell died in Fredericks' cabin, members of the Fayette County Board of Education returned him to a new classroom with students. Police said they were puzzled by how Bell died and brought no criminal charges against Fredericks. Without a criminal charge, board members thought they had to return him to the classroom. The former state medical examiner concluded that Bell choked to death on his own vomit. He explained that Bell had a prescription drug in his system. Neither Bell nor any member of his family was prescribed this drug that the doctor believed made him vomit. Police and the prosecutor at the time said there was no foul play and could not determine the source for the prescription drug. End of story. 52 months later, new officers actually started an investigation. Luckily, Dr. Curtis Thomas ordered a vial of blood to be drawn the day the child's body was found. But this vial of blood was not refrigerated. Did this ounce of Bell's blood still have a story to tell? Mercifully, technology advanced enough that experts could find an unusually high level of chloroform in the blood even after all that time. Had Bell died at a time when technology was not able to reveal what Fredericks did, I doubt Fredericks would ever been charged with any crimes. The old hymn, "There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood," is true for this case. Lab workers found a surprisingly high level of chloroform in Bell's blood, even though it was not refrigerated. Dr. Robert Middleburg, a pediatric toxicologist who works for National Medical Services in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, tested the blood. With only 2 cc to work with and some dried blood on the side of the tube, Middleburg said the blood was positive for chloroform. He also said the level of chloroform was not what one would expect normally to find in blood. He also said that given the age and condition of the blood sample, he could testify there was probably a higher concentration at the time of Bell's death. Middleburg also explained that the concentration level was consistent with acute exposure to chloroform. Police also collected sheets and a pillowcase that Bell was found on. The sheets had blood and vomit on them and also sat without proper care. But Middleburg was able to test the linens for gastric contents and the presence of chloroform also. A bright, kind, handsome, athletic child died in his former principal's cabin. Everyone who knew Jeremy was confident he would do great things with his life. Luckily, technology and dedicated police officers and doctors found out how he was murdered. I will explain more about this case in the next episode. Thanks again for listening, and to Tommy Siner for his always great work. Please join me next Wednesday for a new episode of A Real Crime by Susan Williams.